Out of all the games I sin, Battlefield and Call of Duty are the two series where I have no interest in the games themselves whatsoever. That means every one of those I play, I have zero expectations for, and each is a chance for the series to genuinely impress me and change my mind. Yet somehow they manage to disappoint me each and every time. Single-player campaigns are becoming increasingly irrelevant among multiplayer shooters. In Call of Duty's case, they didn't even bother including one this year. And DICE didn't bother finishing the single player in Battlefield 5 before shipping the game, since it's missing the final war story about a German tank crew that is due to release weeks after launch. But then they didn't bother finishing the multiplayer either, which I figured was the whole reason this game exists, because it's missing the promised Battle Royale mode.
You will now hear a statement by the Prime Minister.
I am speaking to you from the Cabinet Room at 10 Downing Street.
Last year's Call of Duty used a speech from President Roosevelt, famous for his will to defeat Imperial Japan and Nazi Germany even in the face of his own illness. Battlefield 5 decided to up the ante with Neville Chamberlain, a man famous for his weakness in the face of Nazi Germany and who was quickly replaced by Winston Churchill as soon as the war began. The road to success is paved in failure, but so is the road to more failure. This makes 2 years and 2 major releases DICE may as well bury in a cloud of alcohol and extramarital affairs. I don't believe many of you watching this are qualified to tell if Battlefield 5 is merely a bad game or something truly terrible. You're all too close to the controversy created by the abysmal trailer and insulting marketing campaign. You wanted this game to suck, and I wager you were quite pleased to hear that it does. But we all got too caught up wanting this game as a scalp on our wall that we led ourselves to believe it would be something so bad it would define a generation. But I'm here to say that our expectations have been shattered. It's bad in a completely unremarkable way. Just regular old stank.
My father asked me if I was truly ready to go to war. He told me that the good soldier kills without thinking of his enemy as a human being.
Can someone get the narrator some Prozac? This is World War II you're describing, not a documentary on the invention of the aglet. I've never wanted to punch words before until I played this game. Who needs to write anything meaningful when you can just display words that have an undefined connection to the struggle you want to convey? Mediocre, pointless, unfinished, pandering. You'll never be Fortnite.
The greatest killing machine is man.
I think the narrator underestimates how dickish animals can be.
Total war brought death home. It wasn't just about the soldiers on the front. This time, the crosshairs found the workers on the assembly line.
DICE must be targeting the boomer generation who watch the History Channel, because I can't imagine this opening appealing to anyone except that demographic. If that's the case, they should have released a Nintendo Wii version, since that is the only console you'll find in the retirement home. Though the progressive diversity characters in the game are not going to sit well with Grandpa.
Beginnings. Endings. In between one and the other. Between first and last.
Every story has a beginning and an ending, but let us not forget the middle. With those words in mind, DICE created a game made exclusively of middle ground territory. I could spit on my desk and it would have more depth than this. It takes 7 camera cuts just to show Billy being slammed into the prison floor. It feels awkward to begin with this pretentiously dramatic opening, only for the first war story to begin with a character who sounds like he was voiced by Simon Pegg and is apparently tasked with bringing black humor to bear on the German forces according to the mission description.
Are you Billy Bridger? Says on my pad here, criminal use of explosives, assault, attempted armed robbery, arson.
The only game I will allow to get away with character introduction through an actual character sheet is Dungeons & Dragons.
Because you're Billy Bridger. You are the son of big, bad, horrible Arthur Bridger. I'm Arthur fucking Bridger. Give me the fucking money.
Mocking him while 2 guards take the opportunity to dry hump his backside is probably not going to play in your favor later when you have to trust Billy with your life.
I've got a little deal for you. I'm putting together a unit. You're gonna fucking love it. It's right up your street, your sort of thing. And it's got to be better than being in there.
Nothing I could find on the special boat section validates this game's point that they recruited criminals and other no-goods to undertake dangerous missions behind enemy lines. Google just kept giving me IMDb pages on the Dirty Dozen. The SBS were always highly trained men who could be trusted with classified tasks, and normally recruited from the Royal Marines. Even in this game, it doesn't make sense, because Mason and Billy row ashore with 2 other SBS soldiers who are not career criminals. We see 2 other members of the special boat section land on the beach, but neither take part in the mission to destroy Luftwaffe planes at the airfield right next to where they came ashore.
Are you sure about these bombs of yours? This safe pack of specials?
They'll blow this place to pieces, mate, don't you worry.
Why on earth would the British Navy allow Billy to use his homemade explosives when they have plenty of conventional explosives that will do the job just fine? Also, an explosive meant to blow open a safe is not going to be as strong as explosives meant to destroy entire buildings and military equipment. Billy is tasked with planting this one bomb on the plane inside the hangar, while Mason went off to plant bombs on the other planes that I assume were located a distance away from his target. But right after Billy planted his bomb, all the planes surrounding that hangar exploded. Turns out Mason was planting bombs on every plane in the same location as Billy, but for some reason Billy had to get the one inside.
Your bombs almost killed me.
Yeah, that's because my bombs went off. What about yours?
The bombs Mason used are the same safecracker bombs Billy planted. He gave them to Mason at the start of the mission, so he's already seen what they do and that they work.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
I guess this is that supposed black humor the briefing promised.
Here we are, up Fritz's shitter, and I ask you to do one thing. One fucking thing that you tell me that you're a big expert
Can I
in.
just say...
At the end of the day, he destroyed most of the planes on the field. Is one getting away really that big of a mishap?
Halt! Miss idea!
I'm guessing they employed some of that black humor to distract this German soldier while they took the Jeep from him and locked him inside the trunk, even though he had his gun trained on them when he pulled up.
You're gonna have to do this next one on your own, alright?
What happened to those other two guys you landed with? How come they aren't here to help Billy destroy this stuff since Mason is shut up?
Need to knock out all the supplies here. That bunker might have what Mason needs. That's the radar stations.
At least Battlefield 1 and even Battlefront 2 had a single player that felt like it wanted to entertain those who might not be that into the multiplayer. This game wouldn't care about you on Christmas. Most of the game takes place on large maps with 2 or more objectives to complete at your discretion, and with only sparse amounts of enemies dotting it, you end up feeling like you joined a multiplayer map with nothing but bots. Billy uses a German radio to call for evac. It's more than likely that for a mission like this, they would have given Billy and Mason a rendezvous point to head towards once the mission was over. But Mason never discusses that with Billy, even when they are driving away from a successful mission.
It's all gonna be fine. Not even radioed a boat to come and get us.
You did well.
Showing my surprise at this statement will require me to hit the handbrake and bring the Jeep to a standstill. An entire German armor division is sent after just 2 guys.
You have just told every cunt of an Iron Cross exactly where we are.
That may be the case, but no way did the Germans know their targets were in this specific Jeep. This is one of their own vehicles, so from a distance it would look like 2 of their own men, and the radio message Billy sent would only indicate where it came from, not where they were headed. Even though those shots went right through the trunk, the German soldier locked inside survives. Also, the shots hit the right side of the Jeep, yet the armor division is to the left of it. And finally, why would a few rounds in the truck of the Jeep cause it to break down? The engine is up front.
You're not useless.
He pretty clearly is. This makes twice Billy has made things worse on this mission.
Why do you think that I recruited you for in the first fucking place?
Because it seemed like a dramatic story hook? Look, if you wanted someone who tries, I don't think you would have had to look outside the British military for recruits.
Even though you fucked up, you kept trying.
I personally would prefer someone who has a record of success. But to each his own. The German tactic of slowly trickling in a few troops and tanks one at a time before bringing in the bulk of their forces to stand intimidatingly on the horizon was surprisingly not as effective as one might believe. Even though Billy never gave a destination for the evac, the British battleship still knew where they were and came to the rescue.
Vet du hva dette anlegget gjør? Hva det produserer? Folket ditt skaper et monster.
These two spend an unbelievable amount of narrative effort playing the pronoun game so they can avoid saying that this place produces heavy water for their creation of an atomic bomb, always calling him monster instead. For a moment, I believed this was commentary on the energy drink industry. But I guess Nazis prefer Fanta. Suddenly I'm getting steep flashbacks. I may be the only one to get them though. Battlefield is not a stealth game, so you can perhaps understand my confusion over why so much of the single-player campaign is built around stealth. Except until it isn't, because every time they have you play a stealth level, they place an ajar door right before the objective. At this point, a Nazi will appear out of nowhere, like this one that popped into existence in an empty room, and sound the alarm, meaning all that effort you put into playing stealthy was a waste, and you are better off playing this game as you would the multiplayer. I don't really care so much if this scenario, which is based on a real operation to sabotage German heavy water production, is taking liberties by having what looks like Jodie from Beyond Two Souls, acting as if she's BJ Blazkowicz's offspring with her ability to effortlessly kill Nazis. It doesn't matter how empowered your female character is, you still have to put them in an interesting scenario, otherwise you're not exactly helping the cause so much as pandering and creating a stronger case for a backlash.
Solveig? Mamma? Hva gjør du her?
I assumed you knew your daughter Solveig was coming. You certainly seemed to imply that when you were questioned by Weber.
Kan ikke dra hjem. Tyskerne bygger noe forferdelig, men må finne ut hva det er.
Again, you implied pretty heavily that you knew that this plant produced materials needed to build atomic bombs. Now you need to find evidence to figure out the mystery? Good thing these power substations come with simple self-destruct levers. Make sabotage a cinch. Shouldn't you be freezing? You are wearing a thin shirt in the middle of winter in Norway.
Før de kommer sikkert et bur.
Get across the bridge before the trucks? You have no chance of getting ahead of them or even keeping pace. Losing one weapon in a cutscene means you lose all of your weapons. You could have jumped over the bridge too, Mom. Nothing stopping you. Solveig survives this fall and even holds on to the ledger. Solveig is dressed for winter, but for some reason she is now freezing to death when moments ago she was handling the cold just fine. This river was frozen over, though the part Solveig falls into is completely free of ice. Despite Solveig struggling to avoid freezing to death back when she was dry, she manages to trek for miles after being soaked long enough to find a cabin. Hypothermia would have occurred within minutes in this situation. Solveig only choked the German soldier for a few seconds, and that was enough to put him down all night so Solveig could sleep and dry off without even restraining him. Good thing that dip in the leg didn't ruin any of the documents you were carrying.
Som du kan se I de vedlagte dokumentene situasjonen enda verre enn vi trodde.
Solveig's mother didn't write these documents on the German heavy water production. She found them in a desk, and she never had time to write a note and include it in the folder before she was caught. And even if she did, she had no reason to do so, since she couldn't have known they would be caught and that only Solveig would escape. I'm not sure what destroying some evidence of the Norwegian resistance has to do with stopping the Germans from transporting the heavy water back to Germany, but I guess they needed to pad time. Those artillery shells are not blowing holes in the ice. In fact, they destroyed 2 of their own trucks trying to kill Solveig. Solveig destroyed all the trucks carrying heavy water, but for whatever reason, there is now a shipment of it on the deck of this submarine. You don't have to carry a grenade. They are made to be thrown. At least the explosion left her body pristine for this shot.
Je vais vous raconter une histoire que vous ne connaissez pas.
By this point, it's a well-known fact that France swept colonial black soldiers under the rug in favor of showing only white French soldiers retaking France.
Moi-même j'ai une femme. Elle est trop jolie. Toi tiens quoi?
Idris's death flag has been starched, neatly folded, and sent ahead to be raised up the flagpole so his death might impact you even a little. Why even give them rifles and combat equipment in the first place if they were just going to be stuck digging latrines and fortifications?
Notre jeune et ambitieux capitaine a décidé de nous porter volontaires.
The game never explicitly mentions the captain's name, but it's clearly meant to be Charles de Gaulle. I guess he was a bit too controversial to be mentioned by name. But then again, this game opened with a speech from Neville Chamberlain, who isn't exactly remembered fondly these days. This game didn't spend much time on that whole racism angle it bothered setting up. Before the cutscene that introduced the Tirailleurs as being treated as second-class soldiers is even over, they are given their big chance to prove how much better they are than regular French soldiers by taking the AA guns the French have failed to destroy. Demi might want to walk a circle around de Gaulle to make sure he's a three-dimensional person and not a cardboard cutout, because every scene de Gaulle has, he just stands very still with a knowing smile on his face as he looks at Demi.
Voilà papa en retraite. Vous allez crever. Vous êtes cerné. On va contre-attaquer.
I just thought you might like to know our war plans ahead of time. That's how you unlock hard mode in reality.
Regarde ses yeux.
You can only see the look on one of his eyes due to the bandage.
Les Français n'arrivent pas à battre ces fâches miagues, ni même à s'approcher de leur QG.
Et c'est toi qui vas prendre le château tout seul?
Imagine leur tête si on arrivait à se faufiler par arrière et qu'on le capture.
That's basically it for this war story. Demi had delusions of glory and led his brother Idrissa on until he got him killed inside the chateau. Demi doesn't even seem that beat up over it at the end. I'd call this plot half-baked, but I'm pretty sure it was microwaved. This game has changed me the same way a landmine changes limbs.
Hello, old friend.